Hey crypto friends, I'm Garrett and welcome to Altcoin Radar. So for the last week, I threw out my normal trading strategy that I use on a regular basis, and I traded using only the MACD indicator. And in this video, I will be showing you guys what the trading setups looked like that I ended up trading and how you guys can use the MACD indicator in your own trading. Now, before we actually go ahead and dive into this video, for those of you who love trading crypto and would like to try the same crypto exchange that I use on a daily basis, feel free to go ahead and try out the Blowfin exchange here with the link in the video description down below this video. All right, guys, so we are just going to go ahead and we are just going to dive right into this video, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you the trades that I took. So for this first trade that I took, here's the PNL card for it. I made around 47% on a 50x short on Omni, and this is what the chart looked like for that one. So here, as you guys can clearly see, this was a very, very quick scalp short, all right? I literally traded this off of the 5-minute chart. It was a very short, very short scalp trade here. Now, as you guys can clearly see on the MACD, usually when the MACD is red like this, it typically means that bearish momentum has picked up, and it means that bullish momentum is kind of like out the door, all right? And that's exactly what you can clearly see here, all right? When the MACD line crossed the signal line up here, when we were a little bit green up here, that's kind of when the bearish momentum started to take over on the candlesticks, and you can clearly see it right here, clear as day, all right? Now, I ended up taking advantage of this downward momentum, as you guys can clearly see right down in here. I made notes of it, and I ended up entering a short when I entered the quick scalp short trade when the price ended up going all the way up to my moving average right here, and it rejected that moving average. So once it rejected that moving average, I ended up entering the short trade, and I ended up riding it all the way down to the bottom of this next candle right down here, which is where the previous short-term low ended up occurring, which was right in here. All right, so I ended up taking profit right down here, and that's kind of what created this overall let's see here, 47% profit right there. All right, so there's that one. Now we will go ahead and we will move to the trade number 2. So with trade number 2, I ended up making around, let's see here, 62% profits on this one, which was another 50x short. And let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. This one I traded off of the 15-minute charts, all right? So again, it's a little bit of a short-term trade here. Now, as you guys can clearly see here, once again, we have got another rejection at the moving average right up in here, and that's typically where I entered the short right up there. But I also entered it based on the increasing downward pressure momentum that you can clearly see in the histogram here on the MACD indicator down here, all right? You can clearly and visually see that the bars in the histogram, they are starting to move downward in a cascading fashion, all right? They're not moving horizontally, and they're not moving upwards. They are moving downward in a cascading style fashion, all right? That tells us that bearish momentum is getting stronger and stronger, all right? In the short-term trend, that is, anyway. And that's exactly what happened here. I entered the short right up here once we had this spinning top candle right here, and then we ended up opening up right around in here, around the pretty much right at the moving average right here, and we ended up rejecting that moving average and started moving downwards, and that's when I entered the short and ended up profiting off of it. Now, let's go ahead and move on to trade number 3. I ended up shorting this one at 10x, again, the same coin. I ended up making 64% on this one, and let's go ahead and check out the chart. This one I traded off of the 1-hour chart, all right? Whoops. So as you guys can clearly see here, I've got my fib levels on here as well. I just went from the swing low to the very, very, very tall swing high here on the 1-hour chart. Obviously, when we have this gigantic green candle right here, that's obviously going to tell us that, you know, I mean, realistically, on a 1-hour chart with a candle this size, it's not going to last for long, all right? There's going to be some downward pressure and people taking profits, and that's exactly what happened, as you guys can clearly see here. This coin ended up going from $2.50 all the way up to $6.16 in a matter of, like, Jesus, like 1 hour. So that is going to tell you right then and there that obviously in a realistic world, people are going to start taking profits and it's going to go down. And as you can clearly see here on the histogram, that's exactly what it told us, all right? I entered the short based on decreasing bullish momentum on the MACD histogram here, all right? Dark green bars tell us that, the momentum, the bullish momentum is very strong. When it starts to turn light green, that tells us that, bullish momentum is starting to decrease a little bit, and you should probably start looking for shorts, all right? And that's exactly what happened here. I ended up taking a short position right when, price ended up coming down. We ended up coming down to this first fib support level right down in here, and we tried to go back up again, but obviously there wasn't enough momentum for it, so we ended up coming back down, and I entered pretty much right where this right where it ended up rejecting this fib support level right in here, and I ended up taking profit down here at the next fib support level. All right, so that is pretty much how you can trade off of these trade off of the MACD as well. So not only are you looking at just the histogram and just looking at the MACD itself, you also want something else that's going to help you form your bias as well. All right, so there is that one. Now for the last one, this one was a little bit of a longer term one. This was a short on Ethereum. I made 30% on this one, and let's see what I ended up doing here. So this one was based on the daily chart actually, and I remember this one. I was in this one for about like 1 or 2 days, I believe, and that's typically because Ethereum moves a lot slower because there's a whole bunch of liquidity into Ethereum. So as you guys can clearly see here, we had this very, very big upward swing here on Ethereum, and you can see it in the histogram as well, and then bullish momentum started to decrease. All right, I entered the short when we had our first red bar on the histogram, which tells us that bearish momentum is going to start taking over. And you can also see the MACD line crossing the signal line way, way, way up here as well. All right, this kind of tells us when it's way up here that things are extremely overextended, and you could probably end up taking a short to potentially, get in on the bearish momentum that's going to start going downwards. All right, so I ended up entering the short way up here at 3,775, and I ended up taking profit right down in here. I didn't really mark it. I don't know why I didn't. But I ended up taking profit when it ended up coming down and retesting the short-term support level right down here at the bottom of this candlestick right in here. All right, so now that I have showed you these trades, I'm going to go ahead and show you what it's like on a real-time chart here real quick on the daily chart for Solana. So as you guys can clearly see with the MACD, we are currently in bearish momentum right in here, okay? Now it could be gearing up to have a cross and swing back upwards. We don't know that yet, but that's what trading is all about. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. You can only take your own bias and be as confident as you possibly can and make the best decision possible from there, all right? And also we are currently at the 0.5 Fibonacci level right here as well on the daily chart, all right, from the swing low to the swing high from the previous trend. And as you can clearly see, we ended up coming all the way down to the golden ratio here and finding some pretty decent support right there, all right? We ended up bouncing 2 different days back to back right off of it and going back upwards. And now we're kind of moseying along and kind of retesting this 0.5 level right in here, which is very, very nice. All right, so what I would do here and how I would trade this is I would wait to see where this daily candle is going to go. If this daily candle ends up coming down and closing beneath this 0.5 level, that's going to tell me that bearish momentum is probably back, and we might be going back down to retest this 0.618 level once again. All right, now the other way that I'm going to be looking at this is if we end up closing above it and the next candle ends up opening green and then starts to go above and breaches the top of the bodies of these 2 candles right here, that's going to tell me that bullish momentum is starting to take over, and these lighter pink colors on the MACD will, since it's cascading upwards, will start to show us that bearish momentum is decreasing and bullish momentum is starting to increase. So you'd probably be safe to enter a long position and try to ride it up to the next Fibonacci resistance area of 0.3 0.382 right here, or even higher if it goes even higher than that, up to 0.236. Either way, you want to take it level by level doing that, all right? So guys, using the MACD indicator, it's really not that hard once you get used to it, but it's honestly, I mean, it's not one of those types of indicators where it's going to make you rich or anything like that. It's a very, very good tool to use overall though, all right? Now guys, overall here, using the MACD indicator, it can provide some very, very useful information, as you guys can clearly see. When it comes to potential reversals or being able to see the strength of an uptrend or a downtrend as well. However, all right, trading with just the MACD alone probably is not going to be a good idea. In fact, I would honestly recommend not using any indicators at all until you are able to master the naked charts with pure price action, you know, just looking at candlesticks, using trend lines, stuff like that, just pure price action first before adding in indicators, all right? Now guys, before I go ahead and wrap up this video, if you guys enjoyed this one and you feel like you got some pretty decent value out of it, please be sure to go ahead and help me out and subscribe to the channel, hit the like button below the video, drop a comment below the video about something you loved about it, and with that said, for those of you guys who stuck around and watched this video throughout the whole thing, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you guys in the next video.